Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, May 28th, 2024 regular closed session meeting of the EBMUD Board of Directors. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Director Chan,
Present.
Director Gomez,
Here.
Director Katz,
Here.
Director Lenny,
Here.
Director Patterson stepped from the room,
Stepped out.
Director Young,
Here.
President McIntosh.
Here. So, any public comment online?
We have one hand. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the board camera. Hold on one moment. We have no hands for public comment online.
All right, I do have one speaker card from Eric Larson. Subject is solo worker security.
Thank you, President McIntosh, board members, and General Manager Chan. The subject is solo worker security. You're certainly aware of the recent crime wave that we're experiencing in the region. It's a deeply complex and concerning problem to us all. The district has been taking incremental steps to address some of the problems, some of which I believe you'll be updated with during closed session today. The issue I want to address with you now, however, is that of the safety and security of our solo workers. Workers out in the field working by themselves. Meter readers, meter reader mechanics, maintenance machinists, welders, inspectors, and others who are charged with doing the work of the district out in the neighborhoods, going alone to perform work for the district. We've asked Workplace Health and Safety to update the solo worker safety required safety practice to evaluate which jobs are not appropriate for solo workers by evaluating crime statistics and pairing workers where it is unsafe. To date, we're not aware of any action that's been made to address those concerns. We have met with management dozens of times to discuss security concerns, and we've seen incremental improvement. Some of the areas, such as providing security for crews working after hours, some security in some additional security staffing, some improvements in fencing, but we have not seen action in the solo worker concern. 2 weeks ago, we met with management and we made the following proposal to management: that the district shall pair workers when it's the employee's first time on a job site and any time an employee requests to be paired for safety and security. There's a fundamental tenet of safety and security to be paired, to go in pairs. You hear it all the time, don't walk out alone. We get the emails from our manager of security: when you're walking out to lunch, don't go out alone, don't be looking at your phone, don't look down at the ground, don't be distracted by your devices, all of the things that our solo workers have to do by the nature of their very job. So we're asking you now to give direction to management that the district shall pair workers when it's their first time on a job site or whenever a worker requests to be paired for security and safety. And thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Both great ideas. So I'm sure we'll hear from you, Clifford, yes. All right, if there are no further speakers, we will now convene to conference room 8 to discuss closed session agenda items 1 and 2, and we're scheduled to return here at 1:15. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday, May 28th, 2024, regular business meeting of the EBMUD Board of Directors. There are no announcements from closed session, but we will hear committee reports under item 18. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Director Chan,
Present.
Director Gomez,
Here.
Director Katz,
Here.
Director Lenny,
Here.
Director Patterson,
Present.
Director Young,
Here.
President McIntosh.
Here, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we do have one special presentation recognizing Pride Month in East Bay Mud's reigning Pride Affinity Group. And this is going to be handled by our very own Director Young.
Hello, everybody. Whoops. Great. Well, we have a lot of wonderful affinity groups at East Bay Mud, and each has a month of sort of recognition and celebration. June upcoming is Pride Awareness Month. Lots of activities here and around the Bay Area. This is the month that the Reigning Pride Affinity Group has designated for their kickoff or their month of celebration and recognition. I don't know that Reigning Pride even existed prior to, I think it started the same year that I was elected, or maybe the year before, but it has really come into its own through the tireless efforts of lots of our employees who are staging numerous events in celebration and observation this month. Fostering diversity and inclusivity aligns with our core values as an organization. It enriches our workplace and creates a more welcoming environment for everyone. This year also has a new SMT, senior management team sponsor, Kelly Zito, so it's going to get lots more publicity, I would expect, or I hope so. Last year, the group kicked off a Pride-themed jigsaw puzzle, and apparently that spawned a whole bunch of puzzle doing and puzzle making throughout the district. This year, there are going to be several 1,000-piece puzzles for employees to enjoy in multiple locations around the district. And hopefully that'll be publicized in splashes as to where they are and how you can access them. The month is going to kick off Monday, June 3rd, so next Monday. And the Oakland Gay Men's Chorus, which is a very well-known and accomplished chorus internationally, is going to be here to kick it off from noon to 1 on Monday. So I hope folks can find the time to come down to the lobby and hear them and kick off the month. Later that week, there'll be an ice cream social. The following week, Potting Pride, which I don't think it's about pot, but about actually planting plants in pots. And
don't know,
tie-dye,
Marguerite.
which has been adopted by a number of affinity groups, I understand, is happening at Oakport this year on Saturday the 15th. Drag bingo on the 18th, and then a potluck on the 26th. So a month of activities. I'm sure there'll be a trivia contest, as there usually is, and other activities in recognition to raise awareness and educate everybody about our LGBTQ plus, IA plus employees and their families. And as one of those letters, I am very happy to have introduced and recognized this month. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Marguerite. Perhaps if you had not clarified that issue with the plants, you would have had a better turnout.
Perhaps. Well, I wonder if it may not be exclusive. If you bring your own seeds, I suppose you could plant anything.
Do a little tease. All right, thank you, Marguerite. As I said before, there are no announcements required from closed session. That moves us to public comment. I have 4 speaker cards for non-agenda items and none for agenda items. Madam Secretary, anything online?
No hands online for public comment.
All right, so we are going to hear the non-agenda items now, and then agenda items will be heard at the time of the item is up for consideration. All right, our first speaker is Arvin Malia, followed by Greg Alcaraz. And it appears that all of these are neighbors of Alcalanes Ridge. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. I'm here to talk about the Walnut Creek expansion project, which is planned in Walnut Creek. I'm Arvind Malia, and I live at 1045 Alfred Avenue, Walnut Creek. I lived there for 30 years. 7 years of utter misery when the last project was underway in 2004. And you made a lot of promises. You made promises to keep the dust down and pollution down. None of that was honored. And also the trail, which was supposed to happen, that never happened. I was 35 years with AT&T, now retired. Awarded the highest honors for S&T medal for my work on network reliability and disaster planning. Currently working as a DoD consultant on network disaster planning, man-made and natural disasters. What I see with this project is basically a disaster in the making. You're not addressed a whole bunch of issues: safety, reliability, and disaster planning. So this is not addressed in the DEIR. I'm here to represent the neighbors of Aucklanis Ridge. We talk about safety of the Walnut Creek residents, reliability of the water treatment facility. I did reliability all my life, and I see a lot of holes in the reliability aspects of this plant. And disaster planning. There's no disaster planning. This is a facility located on top of a hill with only one access to it, the Larky Lane, undivided. It goes to schools, churches, homes, apartments. If there's ever an earthquake or a fire up in the hills, there's no way out. There's only one lane which is coming up, Larky Lane. So this is basically a traffic engineer's nightmare. Sadly, City of Walnut Creek, we approached them, asked them to do a traffic study, and they have not come back with us. There was one they did for Chick-fil-A. And, when we asked for a study, they never did it. But anyway, moving forward here, this is a facility with multiple chemical compounds surrounded by open space with dry grass, shrubs, and trees. Again, the risk of fire is quite high, an earthquake. There's a 76% chance of an earthquake in the 3 active faults in the Bay Area. And this has got a 76% chance from the California Earthquake Authority. There's increased threat to human life. It's not if, but when is the next earthquake. A whole bunch of chemicals stored up there, and guess where it's going to come down? It's come down in the hills, down into the homes where we live. My colleague is going to talk of the alternatives. Bixler is one of the alternatives which was suggested. It's a locked-in facility. It's not a locked-in facility. There's no imminent danger to the residents. It's a perfect geodiverse facility, meaning you have 2 locations. If one goes down, you have the other one which can be active.
Excuse me, your time is concluded. If you could wrap up
And
your
I'd like to
comments.
sincerely thank all of you here, and I hope you take into consideration the Bixler facility and have your folks from EBMUD Engineering take a serious look at the alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Greg Alcaraz, followed by Norman Matoff.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Greg Alcaraz, and I've lived in Walnut Creek for 2 years. The neighbors of Aucklanis Ridge goal is to ensure the Board of Directors of EBMUD follow your stated principles of your strategic planning process, which include ensure fair and open public process, protect the environment, and preserve natural resources, promote environmental, economic, and social sustainability. We believe the Bixler alternative is superior to the Walnut Creek inline water treatment plant expansion on an economic, process, and social impact basis. The draft EIR describing the conversion of Walnut Creek's inline water treatment plant to a conventional water treatment plant is required to consider alternatives to the proposed plan. The 2 alternatives were proposed and rejected by EBMUD. However, we've evaluated the 2 options and consider one of these options, the location at the pretreatment Bixler plant, to be a superior alternative that is a win-win for both EBMUD and the neighbors of Aucklanis Ridge. Bixler is a win for the Acalanes Ridge neighborhood because the development of Bixler allows Walnut Creek to remain a light industrial plant as opposed to a conversion to a conventional water treatment plant of operational and industrial plant in a residential neighborhood. So traffic, noise, air quality, fire hazards, and just general safety problems. Bixler is a win for East Bay MUD because it allows you to move away from the concept of a customized feed stream for each plant to a common concept, which is the backbone of biotechnology industry, which results in significant savings on a capital and operational basis. Allowing Bixler to operate in a treatment upstream of all East Bay MUD's water treatment plants allows the utility to normalize the distribution and the flexibility within the system. This strategy obviates the need for future EIRs and the conversion of inline plants to conventional plants. On a capital expenditure basis, Bixler may also be a better alternative than customizing each feed stream and the significant upgrade of each inline water treatment plant. Costs for Bixler have varied between $530 million and $770 million versus approximately $380 million for Walnut Creek Water Treatment Plant. However, if Lafayette and Orinda were to be converted at a later date, the combined cost could exceed $1 billion. Thus, in this comparison, Bixler might be viewed as a prudent investment. The neighbors of Acalanes Ridge believe the Bixler alternative is superior to the Walnut Creek expansion on an economic, process, and social impact basis. We urge the board to direct East Bay MUD to perform a thorough assessment of the Bixler alternative. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Norman Matoff, followed by Julia Jackson. Good afternoon.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Again, the last two speakers, or three, I've lost count. I guess it's two, whatever. I'm with them. We really think Bixler is a better plan, in the long run cheaper, and not only from a financial point of view, but from a social point of view. We live in an ordinary neighborhood. Through the heart of our neighborhood runs Larky Lane. That is the only way for trucks to go in and out of this plant. And we're talking about permanent, keep this word in mind, permanent disruption. All right? Tens of thousands of truck trips per year during construction. I'm using East Bay MUD's data. Tens of thousands of truck trips per year during construction, thousands of truck trips per year in the long run, after construction, the daily operation. The neighborhood has lots of kids who use this street, Larky Lane, to go to school. People need to get to work. People need to get to medical appointments. And you know what? Is it too much to ask that we have a little peace and quiet? Permanent disruption. The road will have to be resurfaced periodically on a permanent basis. That adds further to the congestion, doesn't it? And I don't see how the plant is even going to operate during the time of resurfacing. How are the trucks going to get in and out? Fire was mentioned. The EIR itself says this is a high fire danger area. It's not like here in Oakland. Okay, we're out in the dry Diablo Valley, dry grass. If there's a fire up there, what's going to happen? And I'm sorry to put it this way, but the utility does not have a great track record on safety. In fact, in Walnut Creek, a few years ago, a worker was killed in an explosion. That was part East Bay MUD, part PG&E, but you see my point. It just doesn't make sense to put this in Walnut Creek. Bixler is in a non-residential area. It's huge, 270 acres versus less than 50 for Walnut Creek. There's room to grow. In the long run, it should be cheaper. Again, we urge the board to direct the utility
to reassess the Bixler alternative. Thanks.
Thank you. Julia Jackson? Ms. Jackson, I see on your speaker card, it says attachments.
The, put
Oh,
them
is
out.
that what these? Ah,
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Board, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name's Julia Jackson, and I have lived at the corner of Alfred Avenue and Larkey Lane, which is at the entrance to the Walnut Creek Water Treatment Plant since 1979, where I've experienced years of construction and operation traffic. Prior to today's meeting, I gave the documents to the secretary, emailed them for your review, and today I stand for the neighbors of Acalanes Ridge, who strongly oppose the massive construction of the proposed pretreatment plant at your Walnut Creek plant, the project at your plant. The significant negative impact it will have on people of all sorts and the daily safety and quality of life, turning a highly populated residential neighborhood into an industrial zone. We contest many issues of the EIR, high fire danger, increased air pollution and noise pollution, earthquake risk, a congested evacuation route, impact on open space, increased traffic on San Luis Road and Larkey Lane during the 5 to 7 years of the construction. And can you imagine one vehicle every 3 minutes during peak periods? Can you also imagine one vehicle every 11 minutes after construction and permanently for daily operation and maintenance? We believe that the alternative site, the sites have not been thoroughly and sufficiently analyzed. We do urge the board to direct the district to perform a more thorough assessment of the Bixler alternative and also to postpone the approval of this project. Bixler has room to grow, 270 acres versus less than 50 in Walnut Creek. Walnut Creek's usable space is so restricted that staging area 4 is positioned on a sloping hill behind my house because there's no space left on the ridge. Thank you for seriously considering our remarks.
Thank you for your comments. Madam Secretary, are there any other public comments?
No.
All right, that was my last speaker card. Oh,
I just
Doug?
wanted to say, I know we can't discuss this, it's not on the
Right.
the agenda, but I'm wondering if it would be appropriate to have our general manager just give me some context for where this is in the process of decision-making.
Yes, so we've been talking about this project for a number of years, both at the infrastructure workshop with various committee meetings. We have shared the draft EIR with the board. We plan to bring the EIR to the board on June 11th. We will be providing an information memo this week to address their concerns. Bixler has been an alternative that we looked at. It addresses, potentially a number of issues. It doesn't address all the issues, which is why that alternative was eliminated. But there will be a memo this week for the board to understand. It's also on the planning committee for June 11th to discuss again this project, to provide background and responses to some of the concerns that were raised. And then it's on the agenda for the board meeting on the 11th.
Right. Thank you.
All right, so we have no further public comment, so that moves us to the consent calendar to consider items 1 through 14.
Madam President, I would like to pull item 14, please.
Item 14? All right, are there any other items to be pulled by board members? All right, then can we have a vote on items 1 through 7? And 8 through 13 and 15.
I will move.
Second?
All right. We have a motion by Marguerite
I'm sorry, can we make a correction? The consent calendar is items 1 through 14. 15 is determination and discussion, so we will be moving 1 through 13.
Yeah, sorry, 1 through 13 and 15. No?
15 is determination and
Okay,
discussion.
so
And then what's the one that?
14 is full.
Pulling 14.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion by Director Young and a second by Director Katz. There's no further discussion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. That moves us to item 14.
Oh, okay, all right. So I would, Mayor Clarkson, would you come up here, please? I pulled the item, so I think it's okay. Yeah,
We have a staff presentation.
no. I just have quick remarks, that's all. Yeah, please.
Hello, good afternoon.
Mayor Clarkson, I want to say thank you so much for being here on behalf of myself, but also of Ward 7. It is always a joy to see you. And I want to make sure to thank you for agreeing to be a standby officer for Ward 7. And let me just say that, if you don't know Mayor Clarkson is the cohesive glue to his community. And he has mentored so many people, and I consider myself to be fortunate to be one of the people that he's mentoring. But, you're also an amazing friend. So that is something that I did not know about until I got to know you personally. But I just want to say thank you. I want to, and the reason why I feel so good about having you as my standby officer should something happen to me is that you are a person who is very popular with your constituents. And I know how highly regarded you are. I knocked on doors in San Ramon. I went door to door, and I can't think of anyone else that is figure that everyone loves so much and is so beloved. So, and I've also been very impressed by your knowledge of environmental issues and sustainability. So I just want to thank, I'm so exhausted. I think I told you this on I walked in the door with a 15% energy. I'm giving you my last 5%. So, and then after that, I'm kind of going to be, I've had to apologize to the staff for being so tired and not being able to pay as close attention as I should. But anyway, I just wanted to, again, thank you on behalf of myself, but also on behalf of Ward 7. And thank you for being such a great friend, too.
Thank you for the honor.
Can I say a few words as well, real quick? Absolutely. Thank you, Bill, and thank you for being here. I'm very happy that this appointment happened, and happy that you were able to recognize Bill's natural abilities to be able to be an awesome standby officer. So thank you for agreeing to do this for our community. Appreciate it.
Bill, would you like to say a few words?
Just I'm very honored to have this opportunity. I know that when I was mayor, we had to appoint people for our standbys, and I understand the importance of that. I hope never, ever to have to be up there in any shape, way, or form, but I appreciate the confidence. And I also want to tell Luce how much we appreciate her leadership. She's gotten very involved in our area already. She's coming to meetings. You got a great person there. We're looking forward to great stuff. So Luce, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion by Director Patterson.
Okay,
Second it.
All right, a second
you guys are too fast, okay.
by Director
5% energy
Gomez.
again.
Want to share it?
It's okay.
You second it. You second it.
I'll second.
All right, if there's not any further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
service.
Thank you, Mayor.
Have a great day.
All right. That brings us to determination and discussion.
Okay, so for item 14, I think as the board is aware, Jimmy Eloy, our Director of Engineering and Construction, is retiring after 38 years of service to the district. While he leaves very big shoes to fill, both literally and figuratively. I'm pleased to recommend Serge Taranteff as the next Director of Engineering and Construction. Serge has 35 years of engineering experience. He worked 9 years as a consulting engineer and about 1 year with Marin County before joining the district in 1999. For the last 25 years, he's held numerous positions in the engineering and construction department, including managing the pipeline division and the design division for the last 11 years. Serge received his undergraduate and graduate degrees in civil and geotechnical engineering from the University of California at Berkeley, and is a licensed civil and geotechnical engineer for the state of California. And I'd be happy to answer any questions before you consider this item.
Is he present?
He is.
All right. Hi. Do we have a motion? Do we have a
I will move.
second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Director Young, a second by Director Lenny. If there's no further conversation or questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, welcome, Serge. Come on up.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, President McIntosh and members of the board. I wanted to thank General Manager Chan and the board of directors for this appointment and giving me the opportunity to lead the department. Also wanted to thank Jimmy, as you mentioned, Clifford, very big shoes to fill. He's provided great leadership for the department for the past 5 years. Also did want to say we have tremendous talent and hardworking planning, design, construction, and engineering services staff that I've had the privilege and pleasure to work with for the past 25 years. So I'm both honored and excited for the opportunity to manage and lead the department. I really look forward to working with staff, the unions, the senior management team, and the board to manage the district's capital program to provide clean, safe, reliable, and affordable water service to our customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
and congratulations.
Congratulations, Serge. And next, we're going to conduct the first reading to amend the East Bay MUD Retirement Ordinance. We have incorporated feedback that we received from the board on May 14th, as well as feedback from the Retirement Board on May 23rd. And we have Lourdes Matthew, Assistant General Counsel, to lead the discussion.
Great. Thank you, Clifford. Good afternoon, members of the board. Today, we are conducting the first reading of an ordinance to amend the retirement ordinance with respect to pension benefits conferred on future members of the board, future directors.
Lourdes,
Yes, ma'am.
hang on, let me just say a prayer over this.
Amen.
Amen.
As I go through this presentation, it occurred to me, there's a simple way of thinking about these amendments. And that simple way is we're addressing 3 types of individuals who can be directors. And these 3 types, and the pension benefits that 3 types of individuals can earn as a member of the board. So the first type of individual is, who can be a director, is someone from the public at large, but who may have worked in a different public agency and may have reciprocity through that public agency. So the first group, member of the public at large who may have reciprocity that they can bring to the district. The second type of individual we're trying to address is the district retiree who can become a director. And so we want to make, because of PEPRA, and because PEPRA would require that district retiree to reinstate into the system, suspend their pension benefits during their service, we want to make sure that, that they can avoid that to be able to serve as a director. And the third type of individual who we identified in the last meeting is the individual who can be a board member, who is a former retiree, leaves the district, doesn't retire from the district, and comes back as a member in their position as a director. So keep those 3 in mind as I go through these. Sorry, former employee, thank you. I'm moving fast in my head. Okay, so keep that in mind. So just quick recap of our journey together to get us to today. At the April 9th meeting, we went over a number of options that really address the first two types of individuals, member at large with reciprocity and district retirees. And we wanted to find a way to prevent those individuals who become directors from earning a pension, a windfall in pension benefits. So at the May 14 meeting, came back to the board with those options and options for amending the retirement ordinance to address those problems. And as a result of that May 14 meeting, the board voted to, one, exclude district retirees from membership when they become a director. And the second one, the board also voted to limit the terminal compensation of a director who may have reciprocal benefits. So that took care of two of the three types of individuals who can be board members. But we also then discussed about this third class, which is the former employee who comes back to the district as a director. And what do we do about that employee? Because under the current terms of the retirement ordinance, an employee like that who separates from the district with at least 5 years of service may elect to remain in the retirement system and come back. And if they come back, under the current language of our retirement ordinance, is that they get to treat those two periods of service, the first period of service and the second period of service when they come back as an employee, as one single service. So they accrue, so the number of years are combined, and they get to apply the highest terminal compensation from either periods to their retirement allowance. So that's what the current, sorry, Risha, next one. Okay, so this is how this problem kind of works out. So for an example, an employee works for the district for 10 years and earns a terminal compensation of $100,000. And that employee separates from the district, but elects to remain a member. And they come back maybe a month later after they separate from the district. They haven't retired. They come back a month later and they're elected or appointed to the board and they serve another 20 years. Under the current language of the ordinance, the employee would be entitled to a retirement allowance as a board member, so for the 20 years, based on a terminal compensation of $100,000. Okay, so how do we fix that? Next slide, please. The solution is to bifurcate the service of the employee. So we are going to separate out their service as an employee from their service as a director. So what does this mean? This means that we have to create clear distinctions between what an employee is and what a director is, and that there's a clear distinction in how we treat those two periods of service. That those two, and we have to be explicit, that we do not treat those two periods of service as one, as is currently provided for in the retirement ordinance. So what happens to this individual when they retire? So let's say they work as an employee, they come back as a director, one day they retire. What happens to this individual? Well, they would get two separate pension benefits. One based on their time as an employee, which means a retirement allowance based on 10 years of service and $100,000 terminal compensation, and another separate retirement allowance based on their years of service as a director, which in the example I had was 20 years, based on the terminal compensation of a director. For example, $20,000. So they would have two separate retirement allowances. But what about the HIB? We fixed the problem for HIB for the other two classes. What about the HIB for this class? They would also be treated separately. So an employee, this employee, would get 10 years of service for an HIB as an employee, and then would get 20 years of HIB as a director. Now, if they're getting two, does this mean that they're going to get 150 because from each period of service combined? No, there is going to be language that would limit that you could, under this circumstance, you can accrue no more than 100% of the HIB. Okay, next slide, please. So, what is this? What do these amendments look like And as I go through the actual language changes in the retirement ordinance, it'll be shown on the screen, and it'll show, so the strikeout obviously is a deletion, and then the bold double underlined is the language we'll be adding. Before I go into this, to each and every specific amendment, I just want you to know the retirement ordinance is quite complex. It's like a complex Jenga puzzle. If you fiddle with one, you're fiddling inadvertently with some other provision, and you want to make sure that everything is in sync. So number one, changing the language is very complex. Number two, it's a legal document. It's our tax-qualified pension plan. And this pension plan was determined by the IRS as tax-qualified a number of years ago, so we're very, very careful when we make amendments or when we make any changes to the retirement ordinance. Okay, so with that backdrop, as I said, one of the first things we need to do is clarify definitions. Definitions are very important. And so in the first amendment you will see, we are changing the definition of employee to no longer include persons holding elective office as a director. The reason we're doing that is because we are creating a separate definition for director. So we are adding that to our definitions in the retirement ordinance, we're adding what a director shall mean. And that is an individual elected or appointed to serve on the East Bay Municipal Utility District Board of Directors. So that's just clarifying definitions. Next slide, please. Now, this is the more complicated amendment, and this is to bifurcate the service. So this is to deal with the type of individual who's an employee who leaves, comes back as a director, but doesn't retire. And the first area we're going to address this change will be also in the definitions section. So this amendment would amend the definition of district service to include a provision that for an elected or appointed director who first performs services as a member of the retirement system as a director on or after July 15th, 2024, district service, the term district service, performed as an employee shall not be combined with district service performed as a director for purposes of determining current service under sections 15, which provides for the retirement allowance for legacy employees, and section 42, which provides for the retirement allowance for PEPR employees, or for the purposes of determining continuous service under section 36. Section 36 confers the health insurance benefits. And we'll get to see how all this kind of ties in together. Next slide, please. The next, so this is the complex amendments that will need to be made. And there's a section in the retirement ordinance kind of innocently called refund of contributions, but it actually promises a very significant benefit, and that is that anyone who leaves the district with at least 5 years of experience can leave their money in and remain a member of the retirement system, so that one day when they are ready to retire, they can still retire from the district even though they've left. It also provides for a situation where an employee who does leave and comes back, or does leave and leaves their money in, comes back into district service for a second period of service, whatever that may be. Well, if they come back for their service as a director, we want to make these amendments to explicitly state that a member who elected to remain a member of the retirement system pursuant to 12B2, which is this section that allows members to keep their money in even after they leave, and who re-enter district service as a director shall not be entitled to treat the 2 periods of service as a single period for purposes of determining the monthly retirement allowance as well as eligibility for HIB, and shall be treated as a new member for the period of service as director, and the period of service as director shall not be combined with service as an employee. Next slide, please. The second part of that provision in section 12F has to do with terminal compensation, and it promises used to promise that a member can apply the highest terminal compensation from the 2 periods to their total retirement allowance. And again, that's a section that needs clarification to achieve what we're trying to do. And so we are going to add this language that effective on or after July 15th, 2024, terminal compensation for a director who re-enters district service pursuant to this section, 12F, shall be based on the highest average annual compensation earnable by the director during the period of service as director, and shall be applied to any portion of the retirement allowance provided for under sections 15, which is legacy employees, 42, which is PEPRA, 34 is reciprocity. So say an employee who comes back has reciprocity from another agency, this will serve to limit that as well. Okay? Next slide, please. And then HIB. I know, we're concerned about HIB. We're concerned about maintaining healthcare costs or maintaining HIB eligibility for our board members. And so what we want to do here with respect to the HIB, since HIB really isn't affected by the other amendments for the other classes of employees, we want to make sure that for this type of director, that we explicitly state that the director will accrue service and eligibility for HIB separately from their ability and eligibility to accrue HIB as an employee. And if you want, I can read this whole thing, but that is essentially what this language captures. What's important, a member may qualify independently for 2 separate health insurance benefits, one based on the period of continuous service as an employee and one based on the continuous service as a director. However, the combined amount for each period shall not exceed 100% of the HIB set forth in Section 36D, which is the section that provides the schedule for eligibility for HIB. Any questions so far? Okay, great. Next slide, please. Okay, so then so the amendments we just went through kind of deal with the issue of a former employee coming back as a director and limiting their ability to use their terminal comp as an employee applied to their pension as a director. The second one, it has to do with the type of director who is elected from the public at large and who may have reciprocity. That fix has to do with changing the definition of terminal compensation for director. And so we would add actually to section 2M of the retirement ordinance, this language that notwithstanding any other provision of this ordinance, including but not limited to section 34, which is the provision for reciprocity, terminal compensation for a director who is elected or appointed a director on or after, and that should be July 15th, that's a typo, shall be based on the highest average annual compensation earnable by the director during the period of service as a director and shall be applied to any portion of the retirement allowance provided for under sections 15, 34, or 42 of the retirement ordinance resulting from their service as director. Next slide, please.
Insert the word first in that version in a prior reading?
At what
Proceeding.
Who was first elected? Yes, who was first elected. So we'll make sure that gets into the ordinance for the second reading. I believe it's in the ordinance. I think it just wasn't changed in my slides. But yes, terminal compensation for a director who is first elected or appointed.
It was in an earlier slide, but I'm not sure if it's carried through to other places.
Okay, I'll double check that. It should be in the ordinance itself, but I'll double check for our second reading. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, and then the last kind of class of individuals we we want to address is the retiree. And the solution for the retiree to avoid the PEPR requirement that they reinstate and they stop receiving pension benefits during their time as a board member is to exclude them from the retirement system. So a district retiree who becomes a director cannot participate in the retirement system for the period of time that they serve as director. But they will continue to receive their pension benefits that they earned as an employee. They retain all other rights that they earned as a retiree.
I'm wondering whether this shouldn't, when it defines who a director is, I mean, they're still a director. I'm just wondering whether it needs to be also in the other section that defines who a director is.
You mean?
The very
I
first
see what you're
line.
saying, yeah. So like director shall not mean a district retiree. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
But they are still director. I mean, for the purposes of this ordinance, right?
Yes, yeah, they are still a director, but they're a district retiree. We can make that clarification in the definition.
Not substantive
Yeah.
change.
Okay, sorry, I'm just making a note. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so those are the amendments. I'm going to stop here. Are there any questions before I go into next steps? Okay, great. Okay, so next steps, we need to conduct a second reading of the ordinance to reflect kind of the changes in the cleanup that we talked about. And that will occur on June 11th, 2024. After that, we would publish the notice of amendments for 2 consecutive weeks in a newspaper of general circulation within the district's boundary service area, and the ordinance would take effect on July 15th, assuming the ordinance is adopted on June 11th. Under the MUD Act, an ordinance may not take effect sooner than 31 days after its passage. Any questions?
I would like to, we don't, no motions, just a
Nope,
reading.
Nope, we just read through the
So
first
glad that
reading.
we are,
Yeah.
that we have gotten through that first.
Prayers
Reading.
were.
I was going to say, our prayers were answered, Director McIntosh, or President McIntosh.
Really wish we'd been reading this a year ago, but, you know.
All right.
Okay, well, I want to thank the board for all the feedback to get to this point. Thank you, Lourdes. And finally, the Speakers Bureau and Outreach record at your places. And that's the end of my reports.
All right. And that's the end of your report, Clifford?
Correct.
All right, so we will now move to reports and director comments for items 19 and 20, for 20. Are there any comments from the public on either of these items? No? All right, let's move on to committee reports. I'll begin. The board met earlier today for the mid-cycle budget update workshop, where staff discussed the mid-cycle budget update, year-end projections for fiscal year 2024, FY 2025 staffing updates and budgets, sponsorships and memberships, non-Prop 218 rates, charges, and fees, including system capacity charges, water service regulations, Comanche mobile homes, and key performance indicators for FY 2025 and 2026. Finally, the minutes from the May 14, 2024 Planning and Ledge HR Committee meetings were included in your agenda materials. And we will now receive an update from this morning's Finance Administration Committee meeting from Director Katz.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee reviewed and received the monthly investment transactions report, and we also received a report from staff regarding revisions to the annual investment policy of the district. That recommendation by the staff will be coming to our June 11th board meeting.
The board actually approved it today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Please submit items for future consideration to the general manager's office. Director comments, and thank you if you've already submitted your written comments to the secretary's office. Are there any verbal director comments or reports?
Aye.
Marguerite, and then Doug, and then Bill.
Board members received results, preliminary results of an investigation into potential ethics violations on the part of former director John Coleman between the last board meeting and now. I would like to put an item on the agenda to hear a report on that investigation and to consider potential action on that report.
Doug?
I just wanted to, well, between the last meeting and now, we had the West Oakland liaison meeting that we have at least once a year. And I wanted to thank staff for supporting that. It was a great opportunity to hear feedback from the community. Didn't have quite as many people as we do usually, but the ones that were there were very active and had plenty of questions. I really enjoyed that. As always, I learned a few new things, both from community members and the questions that they ask or comments that they have, as well as from staff. And really welcome and thank that particular meeting. I think should definitely be an ongoing type thing, as it has been for a long time. Anyway, thank you.
Bill?
Yes. I have just one item at this point. The others have already been put on the table. I think I want to make reference to one of my ward constituents and long-term friend, Dr. Donald Godbold. Dr. Godbold is the retired he's a retired chancellor of Peralta Community College District and the former president of Merritt College. He passed away on Saturday, and I'll be updating staff so that we can do a proclamation for him at our next meeting. With your permission, Madam President.
Yes. Luz?
Just a brief appreciation to staff who have been working extra hard to meet with our Walnut Creek constituents and residents who came today. So I really wanted to thank you for listening to them and for coming up with some answers that hopefully they will appreciate and understand, although I realize that may be difficult, but I just wanted to say thank you for that. And also thank you for being at the Lafayette meeting tonight. I'll be there on Zoom, so thank you.
All right. Thank you. Well, that leaves me. I'd like to just simply make a statement, and it's with some sadness, but mostly excitement about the future and its possibilities, that I let everyone know that it is official. I will be retiring from my board seat this year. At the end of my term, I won't be running for my seat for re-election this year. It's been an honor and a privilege representing Ward 1 and East Bay MUD staff and employees. I have had this privilege for a very long time, having been elected in 1999. So it's time for me to move on. To all of you, I thank you for all that you do for the district. It has been a true pleasure working with you. You are knowledgeable, professional, and I thank you for your commitment to the district. Lastly, I am the first and only African-American woman to sit on this board in our 100-year history. So it's important to me for me to try least try my best to maintain this one seat. Towards that end, I have endorsed gladly Joey Smith of our district for my seat. She's knowledgeable, thoughtful, curious, thorough, and I think she'd be a great asset to this board. And a wonderful addition. So those are my comments, and I thank you for giving me a moment to listen. And I look forward to the rest of the year with you guys. And it's been a pleasure, a true honor. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments?
Only to say thank you to the emails and the cards that I received from some staff regarding my birthday, which just passed. I received emails and cards and everything from all over the United States, as far away as New York, Baltimore, Atlanta, Louisiana, Florida, up in the Big Ten country, and Los Angeles, and a major outfall of people from the Phoenix, Arizona area, and from New Mexico. It's on the journey through life, you meet many people. I'm fortunate enough to be remembered, and for that, I was most thankful. And I spent a quiet time eating and enjoying beverages and the fruits of life on my birthday. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bill. So that moves us, oh, I'm sorry. I put my agenda up. So each year, the district honors our employees and the contributions they make to the district. Today, we would like to close our meeting in honor of those employees and retirees who have passed away in the last year. Their names will appear on the screen behind us while we observe a moment of silence in remembrance of them. And Bill, did you have someone you wanted me to close the meeting in?
No.
Next meeting, all right, okay. And before we begin, the next regular meeting of the Board of Directors will be held on Tuesday, June 11th, 2024 at 1:15.
Escape.
All right, we'd like to thank all of them for their service.
Amen.
This meeting is now adjourned.
Yeah.